So, now that I'm making videos again, I obviously have to have different ideas of things that I'm gonna do. And then I realized that next week, obviously, we have Scarlet and Violet, which is very exciting. So obviously we have to end the Sword and Shield era a little bit. So I'm gonna make a tier list of every single Sword and Shield set, ranging from Sword and Shield base all the way to Crown Zenith, and not ranking it in terms of its playability, because, you know, I don't play the game, you know, playing card game, no, I don't do that. I don't play the game, but in terms of it, investability, and I don't understand the game. So before we're gonna go into it, I want to ask you guys, if you are a returning viewer, I would really appreciate it if you will hit that subscribe button. It will help me out. You can even hit the bell icon to get some notification when I upload. It's obviously fantastic. If you end up liking this video at the end, then please don't forget to like, or just do it right now. I don't care. Thank you. So obviously we have to cap off Sword and Shield very nicely, and I'm gonna do it in the way that I can do it, and it's pissing people off. Make a tier list, as you can see here. And now we're going to go over from Sword and Shield base all the way to Crown Zenith. We're going to do every single specialty set as well. In terms of its criteria, it actually needs to be, you know, a little different, because it's a specialty set. It's in its name, so it needs to be at least a little bit different than most of them are. And we're also going to do it in terms of investability. You know, you see the boxes there. That's all my investments. We're also going to do it in terms of, like, how interesting is the set? How many, like, top heavy cards does it have? How many rainbow rares does it have? How many alternate arts does it have? Are those interesting alternate arts, etc. We're also going to do it on, obviously, as a collector, how fun is it to open this set. Branding of a set also really matters, and what I mean with branding is the mascots, the colors that they chose, how easy is the set to be recognized. We're only going to do it in terms of investments and as a collector, so let's just do it. So obviously, Sword and Shield base. I think Sword and Shield base is a very confusing one for me, because I understand Sword and Shield base in the context of Sword and Shield base alone, but then you get the set afterwards, which we're going to go into later, and then you're questioning, why did you make Sword and Shield base? But Sword and Shield base is fine amongst the sets that were released in 2020, because obviously 2020 was the big market hype year. It was the Pokeboom, I think, as many people call it. But Sword and Shield is a fine set in terms of that, but I think in the overall picture it's definitely an under average set. It does introduce V and V maxes, which is great and all, but it barely has anything interesting. I think as a collectible set, it is fine. Like, it's obviously Sword and Shield based, people are going to want to open it, but in terms of investments, there is genuinely barely anything going for it. It has that Snorlax card, which I think is fun, and that's really the only thing that I can come up with. Yeah, Sword and Shield base, in my opinion, is a C tier set. Like, it is perfectly fine, it's perfectly serviceable, but I don't think you make anybody happy with it. It's a perfectly fine set, but if you were to open or to spend your money on a Sword and Shield set, I think barely anyone would actually do it on Sword and Shield base, but it's not the worst one as this year. The worst one in this year is Rebel Clash, which is the next one. Yeah, Rebel Clash is the worst. Like, it was kind of, you know, like a Brit. Yeah, I don't like Rebel Clash at all. Rebel Clash is a very confusing set to me. You would imagine that, like, Sword and Shield base, like, sets a standard, and then Rebel Clash is better than Sword and Shield base. It is not. Like, I genuinely don't think there is one interesting, like, Pokemon card in there. I think if you're a full art trainer collector, you might think that set is fine overall, but Rebel Clash has the worst logo out of all of them. I do not understand this logo. It does not look good. Why is yellow the main color of the set when it isn't in the logo? You know, there are a few, there are, like, certain questions that I get when I look at Rebel Clash, and yeah. You know, it's a very strange set to me. It has zero investment potential. Yeah, Rebel Clash is not going to be anyone's main set to open. At least I really don't hope it is. Rebel Clash is unfortunately an F tier set, which I don't like saying, because I don't really feel like the Sword and Shield deserves that. But if you really put it among the rest, it is so far behind of other sets. It has barely anything going for it, and it's gonna piss some people off, I know. But if you've been watching my channel for, you know, since the beginning, you know that I'm not a very big fan of Rebel Clash. Next up is Darkness Ablaze, which I don't have mixed feelings with Darkness Ablaze. I do not like it at all. Is it as bad as Rebel Clash? No, because it actually has some interesting rainbow rares, and it has a Charizard VMAX, which, if you look at it now, is actually, like, genuinely really bad. Like, it was cool back then. There are even more interesting Charizard cards at this point, and I guess that really makes sense. Yeah, I don't think Darkness Ablaze, I have so little to say about Darkness Ablaze. It is not the worst of the worst sets, but it is not, like, it does not deserve C tier, in my opinion, and I barely have anything to say about it. Darkness Ablaze is also not anyone's first option, or at least I imagine it isn't. D tier, I think, for Darkness Ablaze. It's not very good. First specialty set, and it is Champion's Path, and I think Champion's Path is fine. it's fine. It genuinely is very aggressively average in almost everything that it does. I think it has pretty decent branding. It has a pretty fun logo. I think the Champions Path is the Galarian Champions. It does have that Marnie card, that Marnie full art card. It has that shiny Charizard card, which is pretty fun. And also, obviously, it has a card that absolutely should have been in Darkness Blaze and not in this set, but it is in this set. And that is obviously that Rainbow Rare Charizard, which is fine. Like, in terms of investment potential, you have something to look at. C tier. I put it in C tier. Champions Path as a collector is not very interesting. It isn't as special of a set as other specialty sets are, but for the sets that we had at this point, Champions Path is decent, I think. Like, right now it isn't a very good set and still isn't going to be on a very high tier, but at least there are some cards that you are going to really want if you want to invest in the set. So, to cap off 2020, we have our 5th set of the year and the last one, I think the best one of the year in my opinion still, and that is Vivid Voltage. Vivid Voltage is the first base set, or first standard set I should say, that actually has some interesting cards that you can look at. After further research, I have discovered that everything I'm saying here is simply not true. Spoiler alert, I'm going to put this one on C tier, and that is absolutely not deserved. This is as much of a D tier set as Darkness Blaze is, so let's just skip to the next one because it's not worth listening to this. With Shining Fates, our second specialty set, and I think are one of 2 specialty sets of 2021. We start 2021 with this set. I think it's a pretty good set. It is the first set that I can actually be pretty enthusiastic about. Obviously, you have to hold it against the Hidden Fates and Shining Legends, which I think if you compare it to those 2 sets, it is still pretty easily actually the worst one out of the 3, but it's a breath of fresh air. It's something that actually, it has a name, it has a branding behind it, and it holds up to that branding. It actually has interesting shiny cards. It again has a shiny Charizard, and like there's an overflow of Charizards in this point in the Pokemon TCG, and Shining Fates doesn't stop that, although I think the next set actually does. But Shining Fates, it isn't the most interesting shiny set, but it's the most affordable one right now, and it does have some really interesting shiny full arts and also some baby shinies. I love baby shinies. It's a pretty good set. This is the one that I'm actually comfortable giving a B tier. I still think it's a low B tier though. Like, there are a lot better sets in my opinion that come out after this, but Shining Fates B tier in my opinion. From this point out, we do not have a bad Sword and Shield set anymore. I'm not kidding when I say that. I like every single set from this point out. So let's start with the first one of this year, the first regular set of this year, which is Battle Styles. And like, it's kind of a meme to hate on Battle Styles, because obviously if you're going to put it in every single set that actually has an alternate art, I understand that it isn't as great. I'm actually one of the 4 people that likes Urshifu, so Battle Styles for me is actually pretty good. Obviously, it introduced alternate arts into the Sword and Shield, and they're very, very different from tag team alternate arts, so I do still feel like it's definitely their own thing, and I would argue that some of the alternate arts, I love the alternate arts in the tag team sets, but I would argue that most alternate arts look better, or at least are more appealing to most people than the tag team alternate arts are, because those alternate arts really appeal to like very fanatic Pokemon card fans, but I think the alternate arts from Sword and Shield actually appeal to just regular fans as well. Battle Styles has 4 alternate arts. I like both Urshifu's one, both Single Strike and Rapid Strike, and it actually just is a pretty fun set even to look forward to into the future. So Battle Styles for me is actually very high B tier. Yeah, I know. So we have a set here next, guys. We have a set here that I'm so enthusiastic about, and that is Chilling Reign. Almost everything about Chilling Reign, what I said in my criteria, actually holds up almost perfectly with Chilling Reign. I'm pretty sure it had over 100 like secret rares, or at least like it is an absolute ginormous set. It doesn't have a Charizard, which I forgot to mention. Battle Styles also doesn't, but from this point out, I don't think we have as many Charizard. I think the next one might actually be in Celebrations, which is a few sets forward, but Chilling Reign, fantastic set. I don't think it's one of the best sets in the entire Sword and Shield, just because almost everything that comes after it is better overall. But from this point out, Chilling Reign was like, I couldn't imagine, like I wasn't collecting when Chilling Reign came out, so I cannot imagine what it was, like the hype at that point, but I cannot imagine that Chilling Reign was a set that didn't got a lot of attention. Yeah, it has a fantastic investment lookout. Like, Chilling Reign is one of my heavier investing sets. I think at least 5 to 10% of my packs are Chilling Reign. Chilling Reign, good investment, good branding, good alternate arts, a lot of interesting cards to look at. Chilling Reign is a very, very, very solid A tier, in my opinion. I think this moment is gonna be there in every single era, that you're gonna have that particular set that you have been building up to from that point out. but I'm 100% convinced that a set was never this good in this stage of an era. And you obviously know I'm talking about Evolving Skies, right? I think Evolving Skies was the first set that I actually witnessed being released. I think it was on like social media, and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's cool, but I obviously had no knowledge about the Sword and Shield at this point. Evolving Skies does everything perfect. The branding is the best in the entire Sword and Shield. This is the most iconic Sword and Shield set, and it is also because of its mascots and because of its logo and the color, that very specific color green. It matters, guys. Umbreon, Sylveon, Duraludon, and Rayquaza. Those are the 4 ones. If I can name the mascot out of the top of my head, the branding is on point. And obviously with Evolving Skies, it has 18 alternate arts. It must have over 100 secret rares. Like, it has to be, right? If you have 18 alternate arts in the top 5 alternate arts, there are at least 2 or 3 Evolving Skies cards. I would bet you that. Evolving Skies is I'm just gonna say it's a perfect regular set. Evolving Skies easily is an S tier, and I don't really think that is a very controversial thing to say. Some people are absolutely done with this set, and I understand that, but don't get it twisted. Evolving Skies is easily the best regular set in the entire Sword and Shield. So third specialty set, obviously Celebrations, to celebrate the 25th anniversary celebrations, a specialty set that obviously commemorates the entire Sword and Shield with a subset. I think it was the classic subset, which you got 25 cards. I think that's why I remembered it was the 25th anniversary. This set is actually really good. I'm actually really big fan of Celebrations. I think a lot of people still were disappointed because the idea really gave you that you could get like, you could pretty much take every single card ever made and having it like being in like a brand new skin with like some sparkles here and there. And obviously there were still a lot of cards that were missing. I'm not really that wrong on that. I think simply also because like you need to narrow it down to 25 cards for the classic set, and I think another like 25 or 30 for that is very difficult to do, and I think you can barely go wrong with that. I don't really think Pokemon went that wrong with that. There are definitely cards that are missing with the set, but there's obviously one thing that is very interesting. Even despite all of those sets releasing, Celebrations easily is one of the more interesting sets to look at in terms of investment potential. Obviously it's an anniversary set, those pretty much always do good, but it has those 3 classic evolution starter cards with that Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. Fun to open. It got a really good branding and all very good products as well. A array of like different products with like figures and special cards and a lot of that. I actually do believe it's an A tier set, which some people might find controversial. I might not even say it's as good as Chilling is a regular set, but I still like it a lot. Celebrations, A tier. I'm gonna make so many people upset with this opinion, but I think, and we're just gonna start off with the ranking here now, that Fusion Strike is an A tier set. I know that sounds ridiculous, but let me like hear me out here. I think a lot of people are going to be angry because they had very bad pulls with Fusion Strike, which I barely, but like I knew I said it in the beginning, but I don't really hold that accountable. It's how good the set is, how good are the alternate arts. That's a very important part. I think alternate arts are going to be the thing that is remembered about these sets, and I understand that you are upset that I put Fusion Strike that high, because I remember this was the first set that I actually opened as well, and I like was releasing, I was actually into it. And Fusion Strike was absolute garbage in terms of pulls. Nobody, like, we had genuine booster boxes without a single, like, even secret rare, which is, in my opinion, I think that's the reason why Scarlet and Violet actually, like, gets a guaranteed card. You get, like, guaranteed pulls, right, with the new Scarlet and Violet set. I'm pretty sure I did make a video about this. If you want to see that, then you can see that. Fusion Strike has 9 alternate arts, and in my opinion, they are better than Chilling Reign because of one reason. That's, again, the branding. Very iconic duo in Gengar and Mew. Like that's unmistakable. Those do not only have good V and VMAX alternate arts, they are just incredibly iconic. I hold them in the top 3 versus Evolving Sky. But I think the reason that it's actually higher is because of the investment potential. It has more popular Pokemon getting more interesting alternate arts. Even though I am a big fan of both Shadow and Ice Rider Calyrex, for example, they're not as interesting of Pokemon or as popular as Pokemon as Mew and Gengar are. And in my opinion, those alternate arts are still better overall. So even though I understand it, and this is probably going to piss off a lot of people, I think Fusion Strike is an A tier set in my opinion from 2021. 2021 is sweeping the competition. Of the 6 sets that were released, all 6 are B tier or up, which is absolutely insane. But it gets even better. From this point out, it gets even better. And I think that's of one aspect, which is the collectability that absolutely gets boosted into the sky. I do have to admit that the investment side takes a little bit of a dip here. Obviously, if you have Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike and a specialty set like Celebrations, it's not going to do it as well the year after as it did in that year. I understand. We're going to start off with the first Training Gallery and V-Star set, which obviously was Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars is actually fantastic in my opinion. It obviously only has 4 alternate arts and a few alternate arts in the Trainer Gallery, which I don't hold those as strong as others. Like obviously in 5 years, those alternate arts still aren't going to matter as much because obviously you're not going to open as much, so it doesn't really matter. It has better pull rates. It always will have better pull rates, but that only really matters when you're in a period that you open a lot of them. But it does have less interesting alternate arts as, for example, a Fusion Strike has, in my opinion. But it does have 2 of the most interesting alternate arts in the entire Sword and Shield, which obviously are that Arceus or Arceus card and that Charizard card, obviously, which are fantastic looking cards. Brilliant Stars does something very special with the Training Gallery actually having a chance to pull 30 extra cards in the reverse slot, which makes it obviously a lot more easier to pull those cards, and they were very frequent and the pull rates were fantastic, and it showed immediately that this was a very, very good idea. So Brilliant Stars, very good. It kicked off very well. Brilliant Stars, in my opinion, a very good A-tier set. I do have to admit that I was kind of wrong in my ranking every single 2022 set video, which you can check either there or there. Because I think I put Astral Radiance pretty low. Astral Radiance does something very interesting with both the branding and the set itself. Obviously also a Training Gallery, it turned out to be a fantastic idea, and they're going to do it with every single set that came out this year, except for one set which we're going to go to, which is very, very weird. Astral Radiance does not have as much high-end Pokemon, and in the branding it does have 6 Pokemon as pack card instead of 4, which I think is pretty interesting. It does a lot of things good. It has a very interesting alternate arts. It's a very safe, simple set, be very popular with like parents and kids, because you know it doesn't have one card that is actually like hundreds of dollars, but it does have obviously still high-end cards. Is it as good for the investment side? No, I'm not going to act like it is, and there's just not many cards we're going to back to Astral Radiance. I do have to admit that it's very, very good in terms of collecting. I'm also going to put Astral Radiance in the A tier. I still don't think it's as good as Brilliant Stars, but it's better than I think I actually gave it credit for in that video. We have a very upsetting one now. It had the potential to make 2022 a perfect year. Now it's the only set that makes it so it is impossible for 2022 to be a perfect year. And I'm talking about Pokemon Go, the subset, the fourth specialty set in the Sword and Shield. And it's very upsetting because it had a potential of a lifetime. The alternate arts are absolutely terrible. Like, there are 2 alternate arts in here. I think the Conkeldurr, which is so fucking weird. Why Conkeldurr? I do not understand that. And obviously had that Mew card, which both look like garbage. I do not like this art style at all. It has only a few interesting cards, and I think those are the item cards. I think those only have like that nostalgic investment worth that is actually worth, you know, spending your money on. I don't think I would ever try to open packs and then use that to invest in it. I would only buy singles with this set. It is very, very, very disappointing. It had the peelable Ditto card, right, which might also be a very interesting card in the future because it's very, very, very hard to pull. It has barely anything going for it. It's one of the worst sets, in my opinion, in the entire Sword and Shield because of its expectation, and it's just simply not worth opening a lot of packs for to actually get the alternate arts. Gonna do the thing that's gonna upset a lot of people, but I think it's a very low C tier set, in my opinion. Might even still be a little bit too high for this set, but it does have alternate arts. It does have a few interesting cards here and there, and it is still Pokemon Go themed, which, you know, does the bare minimum, but hey, at least it is. You had no excuses to make 15 alternate arts all centered around Pokemon Go, and you only made 2. I really don't understand why. It had a few cool products, but I'm not going to put that in the set. We only have 3 sets left here, which the next one is Lost Origin, and you guys know my opinion about Lost Origin. Still is one of my favorite sets of last year. It has the most interesting training gallery in terms of its investment potential. It has both a Charizard and a Pikachu card that are both fantastic, and a Gengar card as well. I think the training gallery is going to be looked at a very interesting investment side for Lost Origin. It had 4, in my opinion, 3... I don't like that Berserker, but 3 really interesting alternate art. That Giratina is going to be such an underrated card. I don't think it's going to be looked at as much as other alternate arts, but it had that Aerodactyl and that Rotom as well, which were both fantastic looking cards. Lost Origin might not be as good in terms of investing as Brilliant Stars is, just because it doesn't have those high-end popular, the most popular cards, which Arceus and Charizard is going to be very hard to beat in that department, but I think it is actually a better set to collect. And I would rather collect Lost Origin than Brilliant Stars, just because it has those interesting training gallery cards, and therefore I think Lost Origin is actually an S tier. I'm very over the fence on Silver Tempest because I think I said it was the second worst set of last year. I thought Esther Radiance was the worst one in terms of the regular sets. Like Pokemon Go is easily the worst set, but I don't agree with that. I actually changed my mind on that. Silver Tempest is a very whatever set in terms of the training gallery sets from last year. It has that Lugia card, which is still one of the most interesting alternate art in the entire Sword and Shield, which I feel like I say about every single alternate art, but it's actually true with this one this time. It's just that I don't have anything. I don't feel a connection with Silver Tempest. It's not a very special set. I think it's the only interesting alternate arts out of the 4. I do not like that unknown art. I just don't really think it's interesting, and the other two, I don't even remember what they are, to really be honest. Yes, Silver Tempest is easily the most forgettable one of all the 4 for me personally. It also has somewhat investment potential. It's still a set with a training gallery, and a training gallery is still pretty good on this one. It's still an A-tier set, in my opinion, but it's just, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a very, very questionable set for me. It is definitely the one that I care for the least in terms of the Sword and Shield 2022 regular sets. Fusion Strike is S tier. I forgot to put Fusion Strike in the it's in the S tier now. I said it wasn't yeah, it's an S tier set. Last set out of all of them is the best one. I know, I am actually such an huge fan of Crown Zenith. Crown Zenith is such a fantastic commemoration or memorability, or how you want to call it, to the Sword and Shield. Crown Zenith has, I think, 27 or 26 alternate arts. It's somewhere in that range, which is an insane amount of alternate arts, and almost every single one of them is interesting. It's just not fair comparing this to Evolving Skies, because the thing that is the most interesting about Evolving Skies easily is the alternate arts, and the reason that it is the best regular set is because of its alternate arts. If you're gonna, compare it with the alternate arts, Crown Zenith not only has better alternate arts in my opinion, but also just way more. It obviously has that Galarian Gallery set, which I think are 70 cards, which is such an insane amount. It is easily the best set in my opinion. I don't even think that there's a question to it. Crown Zenith is the most fun to collect. It's the most fun to look at. It's the most fun in everything. It doesn't have as good of branding, but that doesn't really matter if your set is this good. Crown Zenith caps off Sword and Shield, absolutely fantastic S tier set, which it's the absolute best out of the best, and I think this is going to be my order, and that is going to cap off the entire Sword and Shield. This is a tier list that is definitely going to be different next week, because I cannot hold on my opinion very long, but I want to thank you guys for watching. If you are a returning viewer and you enjoy what you are seeing, please subscribe. I'm going to say it again, but please subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. Please end up liking this video. Don't forget to do that, and yeah, thank you guys for watching to the video. Thank you.